Hey everybody, welcome to NC-17. My name's Josh. Lisa's out doing her thing, which is always a good thing. Today is going to be a very exciting episode. We have with us the ever so awesome, perfect writer, Miss Peggy Christie. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm fine. I'm doing really well. Thank you.
Mike will be joining us here shortly, but today we're going to dive into a genre I think we all love, horror. And we're going to talk about the best and worst in horror movies, horror books, and just horror in general.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm actually going to say I again just got done watching Terrifier 3 for the umpteenth time. Uh, see, when it comes to movies nowadays, I think they rely so much on CGI though,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, I mean, it's cool and all, but to me, it's just I still love that practical effects.
Oh, for sure. I
Yeah.
think that's why I like movies I think beyond the 80s is when they started getting more and more into CGI and that kind of stuff. So like 80s and earlier is my jam. I do love practical effects. I love like the movies from the 50s and 60s with the rubber suited monsters.
Uh,
Um, like what was that one? Creature from the Haunted Sea. I think that's the one where it's basically like it looks like a cardboard box covered in carpet.
yep.
It's the funniest thing and it's the best thing ever. So
Oh yeah.
I appreciate the practical effect much more.
Oh yeah. You being an author and all, like if you had one piece of work you've done, what would you want it to be into a movie version? Which one would you want into a movie?
That I wrote, that would
Yeah.
be that's a good question. I know we were just talking about the vessel. Probably the vessel because for anyone who's watching who doesn't know, it's a vampire story. Vampires are my absolute favorite thing in the entire world. And I also feel like that story, like maybe there wouldn't be like the need for a large amount of like particularly computer effects or anything like that. It seems like that could be easily done with all practical stuff in general anyway. So I think that would actually be pretty fun to see that in film form.
Oh yeah. Give me 1 second. I got a message. I'm sorry. I'm in the middle of an episode. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Anyhow, phone. I hate electronics, but I love electronics. Crazy.
I know, double-edged sword, man. I know.
Yeah. I actually agree. I think the vessel, and like I said, I've bought all your books and I've read all your books. Awesome stuff. But I agree the vessel would probably be one I would thoroughly enjoy seeing on film.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
but speaking of vampires, like, are you a Lost Boys kind of person, a Fright Night kind of person? What would you say is your go-to vampire movie?
Like if I had to pick a favorite vampire film, usually what I go to is Fright Night. The
Fright Night.
original. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Because I just love the way Jerry Dandridge is played by Chris Sarandon. I think I like seeing a vampire who's not that I grew up watching like the Christopher Lee and the Hammer films and all of that, and that was my first exposure to vampires. But I think seeing vampires that have a little bit of that duality, like they're actually quite conflicted or tortured in the sense, because Jerry Dandridge, alludes to the fact that he never had a choice. He was made into a vampire and that's just how it is, and he had to learn to live with it. So he's a little bit tortured, but he's also absolutely embracing what he is and uses his sex appeal and his charm and all of that to his advantage. And he's also absolutely terrifying. He's not like, in your face, like, "Arr, arr, arr, arr," to scare you. It's just like the look in his eyes or his facial expression, the way it falls when he sees that broken bit of mirror on his floor. And I'm like, oh shit. It's like, I think he does such a great job of playing that kind of monster and character. So
uh,
that's usually that's like, if I had to pick, I would say Fright Night.
yeah. I'm more of a Lost Boys kind of
I
person.
love Lost Boys too, so don't get me wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. But I do and see this is the best and the worst of like that genre because Fright Night the original was so awesome.
Hmm.
The remake was like I did not need that.
Yeah, I think I got through about 5 minutes of that. I was like, well, I will try. I think I still went in with just that bias, like this is gonna suck. No pun intended.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that was just, I mean, and that's not, oh, there's Mike. Hi, Mike.
Hey, how
Um,
you
that's
doing?
not to say anybody in it was bad. It was just
Hey there.
not,
Uh,
not well.
welcome, Mike. Loving the hoodie.
Mhm.
Yeah. We're talking about the original Fright Night right now compared to the remake and how the original was the best and the remake was the worst. Uh, I think I got
Hey, can you
maybe.
hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
All right, cool. Good.
All right. Uh,
Yeah,
so
it just
for the
got weird there for a minute because like the headphone wasn't working. I don't know why.
oh no, it's all good.
Whatever.
Yeah. So for the remake of Fright Night, I think I got to the point where he wanted to enter the house and he just like, well, I'm gonna make the house explode, and now there's no, I don't have to be invited. I'm like, yeah, you lost me.
Is that what they did with that?
Yeah.
I don't even think I got like 10 minutes in. I was saying, I'm like, it's just so completely unnecessary. Um,
What are you guys
So
talking about?
Fright Night, the original compared to the remake, the original
Oh,
being
I
the
haven't
best.
seen on Wild, but I haven't seen either one.
Ah,
I haven't seen the original one, even though it's on HBO, and I'm always like I'm waiting for a wait. I think I just want to see it in a theater, waiting for someone to show it in a theater.
that'd be fun. That'd be
that
You
fun.
would
know?
be. Speaking of showing movies in theaters, I showed Return of the Living Dead in the theater yesterday. Awesome experience.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's a fun one.
Oh yeah. So let's segue right into zombies then. What would be your guys' favorite zombie movie and your worst zombie movie?
That's that's hard. I don't think I've ever even thought about that one. Oh my gosh. Just speaking of like remakes and stuff like that, I actually did appreciate the 1990 remake of Night of the Living Dead with Tony Todd and Patricia. Oh, I'm so bad at names. Um, Obviously the original is fantastic, but um, I have to say, like, the actual remake of that was pretty well done, kind of surprisingly, actually. I just rewatched it the other day.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and I'm like, oh, I forgot how much I really enjoyed this. So it doesn't
That's
happen
actually
often, but
oh yeah.
I
That's
enjoyed
directed by Tom Savini.
it. Right, right.
Yeah. So,
Maybe that
so
because he'd been in the industry for a while, so he kind of understands how things work. I don't know. Maybe that had something to do with it, but
uh, what would be your absolute worst?
I have no idea. Scheiße. Just trying to think of something that I didn't enjoy. It's usually by the time I get to like, the fifth or the sixth or the seventh or the 10th movie or whatever, I think one of the real bad ones was probably like that one of the Night of the Living Deads, but it was so far down the line. I can't even remember. And I don't want to be mean, but the guy who was the gas attendant in that big giant guy, he's been in a
Oh,
bunch of conventions. Is that Land of the Dead?
yeah,
And I
Land of
think
the Dead.
what's his face? They had the big like tower for rich people and all that jazz.
Dennis
I'm
Hopper and
just
all them. Yeah.
like the acting in it was not bad because they had some pretty good actors in there, but I'm just like, I've never had a desire to revisit that ever,
Uh,
ever.
Mike, what would be your favorite zombie movie and your worst one?
Well, I'll start with my worst one because just now, just hearing all this reminded me of something.
Oh.
Oh, you froze.
Have you guys ever seen this Jim Jarmusch movie from 20 That Don't Die? Hello? Can you hear me
Which one?
now?
Yeah, which one?
Hello? Have you seen The Dead Don't Die
Yeah.
with
That sounds
Jim
familiar.
Jarmusch one?
That sounds
Like Bill
familiar.
Murray, Adam Driver. It's and like Tilda Swinton. It's terrible, like painfully bad.
Oh
Like
yes, now I know which one you're talking about. Yeah,
it
yeah,
was the easiest way to ruin a summer's day because it came out in the summertime and like
Uh,
my
yeah.
fro-
best friend and I went and saw it, and we were just it was so bad that we just couldn't do anything after. We just were like, let's just go home. We both parted, went our separate ways for the rest of the day. It was like, just
It just
forget
ruined the whole
this
day.
happened. Yeah, yeah, it was that bad,
Oh no.
painful to sit through.
Yeah.
Um, best, um, well, I just saw Dawn of the Dead in 16 millimeter. There's a screening room near the Red next to the Redford Theater that does 16 millimeter showings. And last weekend they did a horror movie marathon, and they showed Dawn of the Dead 16 millimeter. So because I just saw that in that special,
Oh
Oh,
no.
you keep
You are
freezing, buddy.
there were,
Yeah, your signal keeps locking up.
Yeah, you keep
Um,
freezing.
was it the
I don't know why.
original? Was was it the original Dawn of the Dead?
Yeah, it was the 78 one
Okay,
and 16. So that was,
that's fun.
and it was like the last movie of like a set of
Uh,
four movies throughout the day, and that was the last one.
Oh,
uh,
that's cool.
I'm gonna say my favorite is Return of the Living Dead. I mean, can't
Mhm.
really go wrong.
Mhm.
My least favorite zombie movie, Fido.
You're kidding.
Yeah,
Oh,
Oh, that hurts me, Josh. That hurts.
I mean, the only reason is because, like, I mean, I get the concept they were going for. I
Mhm.
get everything, but it to me, it just like it fell flat.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that being said, my wife absolutely loves that movie.
Right. Right. Yeah, I
I
think that's
remember that being a
what
Blockbuster movie. Like I used to pass it in Blockbuster all the time. I just like
hmm
look at it. Be like,
hmm
Uh,
should I rent this?
uh, it's in my collection. Trust me, I have too many
Yeah.
movies. But
I own it too. I own it too because that one I enjoy that one.
uh, a sleeper hit of a zombie movie, in my opinion, which is completely off the spectrum, is I did thoroughly enjoy Anna and the Apocalypse.
Oh, I never did see that one. Okay. Okay.
That was a interesting one. You know,
Okay.
zombie apocalypse in the middle of a musical and or vice versa. And I'm sitting there thinking like, I hope this person because his singing sucks dies, but whatever. Well, unalive. We can't say the D word. Got to say unalive. My bad.
Oh, geez. I guess.
That's a
Sorry, that's a
subject
whole
for a
other
different.
discussion.
Exactly. uh, but going to these conventions and meeting some of these celebrities, I mean, like you had the chance to meet Tom Savini, or you had the chance to meet the guy who played the tall zombie in Land of the Dead, and I'm like, do I want to meet one and the other? They were both in a movie together, and I'm like, you're gonna go for Tom Savini just because of the name,
Mm,
but then you like zombie movies, so you're gonna go for this guy, Eugene Clark. That's his name.
yes, thank you. Oh God.
Oh, you're right. But I actually had the chance last year to meet them both
Okay.
at Motor City Nightmares, same day.
Oh,
I would go with Tom Savini. That's all I'm gonna say.
okay. All right.
That's all I will say.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. If you ever have a chance to meet Ken, is it Ken Foray? Is that how you pronounce that? From Dawn of the Dead.
Yep, met him too.
Such a nice guy. I think my friend and I were just kind of walking through and we started talking to him, and then we're like, we kind of wasted like 15 of your 20 of your minutes. Let's get a picture. And he was like, no, 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 you don't have to do that. I'm like, oh, but we did. But yeah, he was super nice guy. If you get a chance to meet him.
Oh yeah, I met him the same day I met Eugene Clark and Tom Savini.
Okay,
I
cool.
got to meet at Astronomicon again. Josh was going back to the ICP thing from last night.
Oh yeah,
uh, I went to Astronomicon and
you froze again.
got to meet one of the writers of Night of the Living Dead, and I have a poster on here somewhere where that's signed by him.
John Russo.
So that was, yeah, that him. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. Actually every time I go to Motor City Nightmares, I talk to him. He's there every time. So
Usually, yeah.
yeah, haven't gotten no autograph from him yet because I'm just like I'm so excited for the other people. You know.
Hmm.
But let's go back to like horror genre movies of we did vampires, zombies,
Mhm.
like monster movies. Like I don't know, what would you guys consider a monster movie? Is it Frankenstein because he's Frankenstein's monster, or would you
Mhm.
consider like Critters a monster movie? I mean, I don't know. That's an interesting question, though.
That is an interesting question because monsters don't necessarily have to be just like an animalistic, like a werewolf, or a mummy. I think would be a monster. I think Frankenstein's monster would be a monster, just because he's not completely human. Um, yeah, I don't. And then, yeah, how do you distinguish between like the little critters? Are those monsters too? Like ghoulies. I
Uh,
think ghoulies are little monsters, but they're this big. So
I'm sorry. After seeing Ghoulies, I thought twice for like almost a whole year about even using the restroom.
the funny thing about that movie poster too is like, I think in that movie, is the thing even in the toilet for
Oh,
that particular movie? I don't think it goes into the toilet until like the third movie or something. I'm like,
yep.
oh,
Part two. Yep.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean,
I actually had a good opportunity yesterday to see a good monster movie. The Redford played uh, Creature from the Black Lagoon in 3D, and that's a good example of a monster movie.
oh,
Like
absolutely.
it reminded me of the Mummy a lot, actually. Like some of the characters were like talking the way they do in the Mummy. It just
Oh, yeah. That's
Nice.
yeah. I don't know. Like, can we really differentiate from monsters of like you got again zombies, vampires, werewolves, all this other stuff, but then you get into the subgenres of like the Chud and stuff like that. I mean, in Chud one, they're monsters. In Chud two, they're zombies. I'm like, what's going on here? So
Oh, yeah. I don't think I've seen Chud 2 in about 100 years, so I don't even remember what happens. Isn't like Bud the Chud or something?
yep,
Is that what it is? But yeah, they were. I would call them definitely monsters in the first film. But yeah, I
yeah,
don't really remember. But aren't zombies monsters as well?
that's true. But now here's a question that's going to be really crazy, and well, I'm going to live up to my nickname, Crazy J here. But are the zombies the monsters, or are we the monsters to the zombies?
Depends on the
ooh,
film, but
very deep,
definitely.
very
Yeah.
deep.
Well, like the remake of Night of the Living Dead, when you get to the end and she survives and she's watching these bunch of rednecks shooting, like hanging zombies that are still alive, and she's like, they're us and we're them. So I think it depends on the actual film and how they do depict like human monsters compared to monstrous monsters. So yeah, and I think that's actually an interesting would like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because it's still a person. I don't think he necessarily turns into a monster, but it's like, is that still a monster film? Because he's obviously a terrible human being. At
Yeah,
one point, it's like same thing with Invisible Man because he goes insane,
yeah,
that kind of stuff. So
Walking Dead exhibited this perfectly over the years because they would,
yeah.
it didn't even matter where the zombies were. It was just like first we're dealing with the governor, and now we're dealing with, all these people who were like just menaces.
I think that's a good example of like it's a human drama, but with a backdrop of zombies. It's
Yeah,
the zombies are kind of secondary.
yeah.
It's the human monsters that we're dealing with from day to day.
oh yeah,
Oh, for sure.
And
oh yeah,
a good movie that portrays that like just perfectly, Night of the Living Dead, because this guy spends the whole movie trying to
Hmm.
keep everybody safe
Hmm.
and not dead and turned into a zombie, and at the end he still gets killed just
Yes.
because of
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
uh, let's go on a different.
racism and these guys just killing anybody that
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, let's talk about the like ghosts and ghost movies and stuff like that. What would you say is one of your favorite ghost movies?
Changeling.
Oh,
I know a lot of people hate George C. Scott. And fair. But yeah, Changeling I remember seeing as a kid, and it scared the crap out of me in the sense where it was like, I mean, obviously there are going to be spoilers here, but when you find out that a child was killed because the dad was like, "Well, I can't have society look at my son like he's an invalid," and blah, blah, blah. And I that scared the crap out of me. And the seance scene scared the crap out of me when I was
oh
young.
yeah,
I love that film.
it's a good movie. My wife
Mhm.
refuses to watch it. She watched like 6 minutes of it and then she's done.
Yeah, it's very atmospheric, which is why I think it's so creepy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I
and,
love George C. Scott, by the way. I don't know
What's that?
people. I love George C. Scott. I don't
Okay,
know why
good.
people don't like because yeah, he's a great actor. He just did what he wanted to do in life.
Hmm. Hmm.
He had opinions and points of view, and that didn't align
Sure.
with. So he's just like, screw it, whatever. This is how.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you guys like? Where would you rank the Paranormal Activity series? Would that be something scary, or is that just something that they were trying to cash in on?
I, I particularly didn't like them, and I have seen all of them. I keep torturing myself and I keep watching them. Like the first one, the moment where I think she's dragged down the hall,
Yeah,
that scared, and then comes flying at the camera at the very end, that scared me. Because I think we all have that innate, like, you let your foot hang off the edge of the bed and something's going to come grab you. But otherwise, I think they've just, it felt like a cash grab after that, like
yes,
over and over and over and over and over. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I was working at the drive-in when the first one came out, and my wife and our friend was watching it because I was working, and they were like, "We got to leave because he got so scared he spilled the pop all over the car." And I'm like, then I was like, "Well, I got to watch this movie if you're getting that scared." Watch
Mhm.
it. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike, what would you say is one of your favorite ghost movies?
Well, I do love Poltergeist. It is still
Mm.
holds up, still hilarious. I like it'll be hilarious at times, but also like great. I say hilarious because there's this he's smoking a joint while reading a Ronald Reagan book, and it's just like way too funny. I just couldn't get enough of that. But
Mhm.
Uh,
one I watched recently that I really enjoyed that I hadn't seen in forever. You guys remember The Others with Nicole Kidman?
Yes. I saw that in the theater. That scared me.
Oh, what was that like?
Very creepy. Very,
Really?
very
So
creepy.
wait, when you saw it in the theater, it wasn't okay. So I'd seen it already, but it's been like 20 years. And as I'm watching it, I'm like, isn't it kind of obvious they're all ghosts? Isn't it obvious a
It's
little bit?
fine. I think it probably, and not just because when you've seen it, it's like, well, duh, but it's like my husband's really good at picking up on stuff like that, like with the Sixth Sense. And I
Yeah,
was like, I had no freaking clue. So I think I don't pay, I get so immersed in like an aspect of something that I
yeah.
just don't pay attention to the clues. So sitting in a darkened theater, I was like, I was doing that a lot because I was creeped out, but it
Yeah.
does seem like it would be pretty obvious. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But
Well, for me, what made me realize they might all be ghosts is like one of the caretakers. She's like, "Well, we come back here, because it's like the place that makes sense for us." And I'm like, "Oh, that's a ghost thing to say."
that's a ghost
That,
thing
yeah.
to
yeah,
say.
that's not. Come on.
I'm actually with Peggy. I saw it in the theater too, but I was working at the AMC theater in Dearborn, and I actually got the midnight showing. No one came to it,
Wow.
so I was the only person in the whole theater, and I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, maybe I'll get scared. I knew they were ghosts like 20 minutes into the movie,
Hmm.
but what gave it away was just like all the little, like you couldn't go this far, you couldn't do this, you got
Hmm.
to stay away from everybody, and I'm like, all right, you're ghosts. Then
Yeah.
at the end, when they revealed it, I was like, no, no, no surprise factor there, But then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna watch it with an audience. Watch it with an audience. Everybody and their mama was getting scared. I was like, I don't know what's wrong with these people, but whatever.
Hey, fair, fair.
But let's talk about directors for a minute. I think Adam Green really hasn't had a bad movie.
Mm.
Like his movie Frozen, in my opinion, is one of his best movies. But I do like the Hatchet series.
Mm.
Just kind of got a little bit more crazier as the Hatchet series went on. How many times can you rip somebody's head open? But whatever.
Yeah.
Who are some of your favorite directors?
I'm not really good at remembering directors, but Wes Craven, I think, has directed quite a few films. I didn't realize actually even some of them. I'm like, oh shit, Wes Craven. Like after he died, I did like a little article for a website, like kind of like top 5 films or something like that. And I
Yeah.
hadn't even realized that he directed Serpent and the Rainbow. And it's like, because I know people remember him for certain things. And then I'm like, a lot of people really hate on that film. I personally enjoy it. People Under the Stairs, like goofy horror, which is fun. I think I've been more satisfied with his stuff than like a lot of other people.
Oh
So
yeah. Yeah. Mike.
um, this is gonna sound boring, but I love John Carpenter. I'm a huge
nothing
John
boring
Carpenter
about
fan.
that. That's
Yeah, I
totally.
know. It's like oh great, like. But I've actually seen him in concert. I saw him perform his scores.
Oh
He
A
yeah.
friend of
does
mine
the
did that.
scores for most of his movies, except for this one,
Oh. What'd you
because that's a
what did
more
you guys
Morricone score. But
what did you think of the thing? Like, did you was it like is it in your top
like,
five?
yeah, it's probably top five or top 10. This version, the Kurt Russell version, yeah, top five, top 10. You
Yeah.
know, top 10 for sure.
Peggy?
For of that particular movie?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I have revisited it a few times and then after seeing the remake because I hadn't watched the not even a original was the 50s version, but the Kurt Russell version. I'm like, I need to go back and rewatch the Kurt Russell version. I'm like, this movie's it just didn't have as much heart, I don't think, as
Oh
the
yeah.
John Carpenter vision of it. So yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's a great film.
Oh yeah. I think with the remake or prequel, whatever people want to call it
Yeah,
nowadays,
whatever.
yeah, I think it wasn't a thing about the story. I just think the casting and the acting just fell really like below flat. Like it was not even subpar, you
Yeah.
know. And like you got the lead who, okay, albeit she's a great actress,
Hmm.
but not for that movie.
Right.
Then you got a old boy off the who played one of the Dumb and Dumber characters in the prequel, and I'm like, you know, you can't sell me on stuff like that because I'm like, you can't go. That's like Medea going, Tyler Perry going from Medea to whatever that Alex Cross. Like you
Uh,
can't do
okay.
that.
I actually haven't even seen that version of the thing. You're talking about the 2011?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't even.
Yeah.
I refuse to go see it. I refuse to watch
you ain't missing nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not really missing out on anything.
Got to stand on some principles.
Line, do not cross.
Yeah.
I cross all those lines just because I'm a horror freak. I gotta watch them, you
Okay.
know. But like even ones I walk out on, I'm like, eventually I'll watch it anyway.
Oh, okay.
It's just that's the crazy person in me, I guess. But we got about 8 minutes left, so let's get to the meat and potatoes. 70s, 80s, and 90s compared to the 20s, 2010s, and nows. Is there too much blood and gore now, or was there not enough back then, or was there too much back then and not enough now? That's a good question.
Hmm. I, it's almost kind of comparing like apples and oranges because I think like 70s through the 90s, there was obviously a lot heavier exploitation, grindhouse, which is very heavy on like gore and just uncomfortable and pushing the envelope. Whereas I think from 2000s and beyond, like we were talking about earlier about discovering computer effects, CGI, or I think a good chunk of the 2000s were like that. And maybe now they're trying to go beyond that. Like, okay, we do need more story. We don't need to just throw a bunch of violence on stuff. I know people jump on the whole Saw Hostile thing, whereas the original Saw was done very well and it was a very intelligent film, and everything else was just torture porn. But I think every decade kind of has that ebb and flow. It's just they feel so different. They're
Oh yeah.
just totally different feels,
Yeah.
I think.
Now,
I'm a big fan of like the like less is more aspect of like the 70s, 80s, and
Mm-hmm.
some of the 90s horror movies where it's like, you know, we don't have enough money for this, so we're just gonna do whatever works. Oh, hey, that worked brilliantly.
Right, right.
Whereas there's a lot of awesome, great horror movies in the last 15, 20 years, but
Sure.
there's also a bunch of them that are like drag on too long, poorly paced.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like it just that's one of my biggest gripes with current movies where they're drag on for like 2.5 hours when you only need like hour and 45 minutes.
Yes.
uh,
Yeah. Oh,
I will say though, the ending of the first Saw movie, brilliant.
yeah. It was a very big surprise to everybody,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
I
think.
somehow saw that in theaters when I was like 12, 13.
Oh!
And
I'm
like my
old as
uncle,
shit.
I have an uncle that used to take me to like every horror movie that would come out, even if it was terrible.
That's
So
awesome.
I don't quite remember my feelings during Saw, but I do remember seeing that and just being like, "Oh, what?" And then I just like this,
Oh, would?
yeah. Rest of the Yeah, just blocked it.
That's hilarious.
Uh,
Oh,
damn.
that's awesome.
You were 12 when you saw it. I'm old as shit. That's all I'm gonna say.
I was like, when did that come out?
Well, if to make
Uh,
it 01, I think.
yeah,
02,
01, something
2002.
like
Yeah, I
that.
was in my 30s at that point, so
Yeah.
it was too late for me.
To make it a little bit worse, I guess, take the knife in. When I watched Scream the first time, we rented it from Blockbuster or bought it on VHS, and I was like 7, and I was watching through my fingers and everything. So there's that.
We're ending the show now. No, I'm just playing.
uh,
Yeah, I'm dated. I can't help it. So we got 5 minutes left. I first want to say thank you both for coming on.
you're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh,
We could. I feel like we could go on for another 2 hours talking.
I know.
This is just like 5 minutes. Okay, you're done. You can talk more about something else. It's like, wait, we still have to what?
Oh yeah, I'm going to let Peggy plug her book. Go ahead.
Speaking of monsters,
It's an awesome book.
That looks amazing. I want to read that.
It's a novella length, so it's a relatively quick read. So only like 40,000 words or something like that.
But it looks awesome.
We need another 40,000 words.
You know how long it took me to write those 40,000?
Peggy Christie is an awesome author. You can look her up on Facebook or your social medias if you want to plug them.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I either have my regular Facebook is just I can't even remember. I have an author Peggy Christie that's specifically my author stuff. I'm just PMonkey710 on Instagram. Those are the two things that I think I use the most.
Definitely go on Instagram, go to PMonkey, make sure you get her books because if you don't, what the hell are you doing? The Vessel, awesome book. Hopefully, maybe one day turned into a movie. And I don't want to be a star in it, but I will watch it 100,000 times. And Mike, you are my brother from another mother when it comes to horror.
Yeah,
I want to thank you for coming on. Until next time, hopefully, Peggy, you can come back on eventually sometime.
Absolutely, I'd love to.
And Mike, you're always welcome. And I will say this. Actually, no, I'm not even going to close out the show. Peggy, go ahead and close out the show.
Well, I want to say that you should make this a series. Like you were talking, Mike, we could talk about this for hours. It's like maybe do a show dedicated to specific things within the horror world: exploitation, vampires, werewolves. You know what I mean? Ghost stories, whatever. I think you should.
What y'all doing next Sunday?
What's that? Next Sunday? What's the date?
you know the DSO is actually playing Nosferatu at the DSO. They're in the Cube. They're just doing some kind of whatever that is, whatever the in the Cube means. But like they're showing.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
I did not know that. I used to work downtown. I would have known that, but I don't work downtown no more.
There's a lot of cool things happening around town, like Motor City Cinema. They do 16mm films on real film on Mondays. So tomorrow we're seeing Texas Chainsaw.
Dang.
What was that called? Motor City what?
Motor City Cinema. Look up motorcitycinema.org. It's next to the Redford Theater. It's like a screening room next to the Redford.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Next Sunday is the 27th.
Okay. Actually, my husband is playing with the Warren Concert Band. They're doing horror movie soundtrack music. So I gotta do that.
That sounds awesome.
We'll figure it out. But so we got about a minute and a half. Peggy, you want to close out the show?
No, but
I mean, if you don't, I will. It's up to you.
It's been actually awesome being on the show. I love doing these podcasts with you. I'm glad you got someone else to come on too. I think it's more fun when you can have a couple people kind of blathering on about stuff. So I hope you keep doing this because I think you're doing a really good job. And
I appreciate you.
I look forward to doing it more. So
we will definitely all be back on. And Lisa, after she's done doing her field work, because she's working at Airbus. So, that's a good thing because she likes to scare people. Mike, anytime you want to come on, let me know. Peggy,
Yeah.
as always, it's a
And I
pleasure.
review movies at a couple spots too, like on
Nice.
Instagram, it's the World of Hammer, and
Uh,
also on Letterboxd, the Hammer Strikes or just Hammer Strikes. I got to change that sometime.
uh,
I'm writing
hey,
it down.
you
You have to
heard it.
pay in order to change it.
Oh yeah. All right. Until next
Learn that
time,
the hard way.
everyone. Stay NC-17, and thank you guys for coming on.
Yeah, thanks. Have a great day.
Bye.